All right, you guys know the drill. Whenever I'm in the nondescript room, I am not in danger. I'm at the airport. I'm at SFO, final day in San Francisco, and I've got a 49ers update for you right before I get on the plane. Rush to get everything set up so we can talk because Brian Griese, the 49ers quarterbacks coach, has turned down the Jets. New York wanted to interview Brian Griese for their head coaching position, and Brian Griese, according to Brian Costello, said no. The Jets, they're a toxic situation. I think that we know that because of what happened to Robert Saleh. Woody Johnson, the Jets owner, reportedly fired Saleh after the Jets lost in London because Woody Johnson used to be the U.S. ambassador to the U.K. And apparently the Jets' loss in London made him embarrassed in front of his British friends. So he decided to fire the head coach, the defensive-minded head coach who had one of the top defenses in football, mind you. Anyway, the Jets keep on spinning their wheels. It's not a good situation. And Brian Griese has said, no, I do not want to coach there. Griese has had offensive coordinator interest over the course of the past 2 years. And he also is in a really good spot right now with the 49ers because he is coaching this guy, Brock Purdy, one of the best young quarterbacks in the NFL. And he's had tremendous success coaching not only Purdy with the 49ers, but also Jimmy Garoppolo. Thought Trey Lance actually showed some development under Brian Griese, and of course Sam Darnold in 2023. So the resume for Brian Griese has been impressive after moving from the broadcast booth to the 49ers QB coach job. He deserves any attention that he does get for a promotion to offensive coordinator, or in the case of the Jets, who wanted to interview a lot of people for head coach. But Griese also reserves the right to say no to interviews. And it's really important to find a spot that is amenable to the advancement of your career, especially if you're already in a good spot. You're not desperate to leave. And who would be desperate to leave this situation with the 49ers? You can bide your time and wait for the best opportunity. That best opportunity for Brian Griese obviously is not the New York Jets, as he says no to that interview process. So we'll keep our eyes on Griese. 49ers offense wasn't overpowering this past year. It wasn't the 2024 unit. I've got a cool graph, by the way, that I can show you guys. That SF Data Niners came through with yet another really cool graphic. Check this one out. This is going to be the 49ers offense throughout the years. You want to be in the upper right. So the origin is right here. So if you're above and to the right of where my cursor is hovering, you're good. Look where they were in 2023, all the way in the upper right corner. So that was the 49ers offense when it was fully armed, when Brock Purdy had all of his weapons. This past season was the worst one since 2020. But as you can see, they were still above average. So Griese has been working with a situation that has a high floor, like an above average floor, even when everything goes wrong, and an astronomical ceiling. That's where the 49ers offense was in 2023. And a lot of that is credit to this man right here, Brock Purdy. Credit also goes to Brian Griese for coaching up Brock Purdy and being one of the identifiers of Brock Purdy, right? You go back to how Purdy was found, and Steve Slowick, who was the area scout for the 49ers in that Iowa region, discovered Brock Purdy at Iowa State. But it was Brian Griese who was quickly aboard the Purdy train, and then San Francisco did draft him at 262, and now he's developed him in the building. So this is obviously a valuable asset to the 49ers coaching staff, and he doesn't want to head to a spot that has treated previously valuable assets of the 49ers coaching staff as discardable coaches. And that one of those names is Robert Saleh. He remains the favorite for the 49ers defensive coordinator spot. Matt Barrows, my former coworker, joined my current coworker, Tim Kawakami, on their podcast. And Barrows confirmed what has been true, I think, throughout this entire defensive coordinator search process for the 49ers. That Robert Saleh remains the favorite. And Matt took it a step further. He said, this is a quote from Matt, it's Robert Saleh or bust, really, because they haven't done much work with anybody else to this point. I've heard that they already told Saleh, we will make you the highest paid defensive coordinator in all the land if you sign with us. So now it's just a matter of waiting for Saleh. Okay, so a couple things to unpack there. Saleh this week has interviewed for 2 defensive coordinator jobs for Jacksonville, where he's previously coached. So the organization knows him. And for the Las Vegas Raiders, he's scheduled to interview with the Dallas Cowboys tomorrow. It does seem like the 49ers might be dangerously putting all their eggs in one basket here. However, I will say that we don't know what the nature of the interview and the conversations with Saleh have been like. Maybe Saleh has assured them that he just wants the interview to not burn any bridges, and he doesn't expect to get a head coaching job, and he does want to come back for at least a season with Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. I don't know. That's why I'm not going to jump to conclusions, but I do know that the 49ers have officially interviewed only 3 candidates: Robert Saleh, Deshae Townsend, who's the DB coach of the Detroit Lions, and Brandon Staley, who's currently on the 49ers staff as assistant head coach, former defensive coordinator of the Rams, and head coach of the Chargers. So it's too soon to say anything really about the 49ers strategy because we don't know what the nature of the conversations and the Robert Saleh situation is, but we do know that Robert Saleh is the heavy favorite right now for the 49ers to return as their defensive coordinator. Well, with Saleh, we know that he did a fantastic job, and he checks every single box that Kyle Shanahan said that he wanted checked for this DC spot of the 49ers. He wanted experience. Robert Saleh has that, and he has even more experience than he had when he left the 49ers in 2020 because he's now been the head coach of a team. He's worked on the offensive side of the ball. He was an offensive consultant for the Packers after he was fired as the Jets head coach. He's somebody who's adaptable. The Jets defense blitzed a lot more over the past couple years than they did at the start of Saleh's tenure, and then Saleh did when he was the defensive coordinator of the 49ers. And I think that increasing blitz rate, effective blitz rate, is massive for San Francisco to stay with the times defensively. He's obviously succeeded with the 49ers' current defensive framework since he implemented it himself. And also in 2019, the 49ers' best season defensively under Saleh, they implemented the wide 9 with Chris Kasarik coming over as D-line coach. And Saleh has proven that he could work with that unit. So, I mean, you look at familiarity, you look at experience, you look at demonstrated track record of success. Saleh had that in New York. In fact, after he was fired, the Jets defense fell off a cliff because I think Saleh and Jeff Ulbrich actually worked really well together there. Ulbrich was technically the DC in New York, and that's somebody the 49ers are probably also interested in, their former linebacker from the South Bay. But I think when Saleh was fired, Ulbrich had to move up to the interim head coach job. So he was no longer as involved or could no longer focus as much on defense. And it created a cascade effect, right? Saleh, Ulbrich, both out of position. Saleh fired, defense falls off a cliff. With that being said, Ulbrich is interviewed for the Falcons defensive coordinator job. But this is something that Danny G, good guy on Twitter, Danny G, could follow him, floated around. And I thought it was a good idea. So I retweeted it, added some of my thoughts. What if the 49ers landed both Saleh and Ulbrich? Because there's a chance that Ulbrich doesn't get a defensive coordinator spot. Obviously, this would be contingent on Saleh joining the 49ers as their DC. But if the Falcons don't hire Ulbrich, then, and there's a lot of capable defensive coordinators on the market, including Dennis Allen and Lou Anarumo this time around. So if Ulbrich is still left standing once the musical chairs stop here, then I think he's a South Bay native, played San Jose State, played 10 years for the 49ers. Saleh seems to be a hot name on the head coaching circuit, so he could be a guy that rejoins the head coaching ranks within a year or a short order of time. Might the 49ers try to bring on Ulbrich to work with Saleh on game plans, just like Ulbrich worked with Saleh on game plans in New York? It was obviously a highly effective combination. And then Ulbrich could effectively be the next man up for the 49ers defensive coordinator position. Because one of the biggest problems the 49ers have right now is a lack of continuity at DC, because Kyle Shanahan has missed on 2 straight coordinators. Steve Wilkes in 2023, Nick Sorensen in 2024. So they're about to have their 3rd defensive coordinator in 3 years. And it could potentially be 4 in 4 years if Robert Saleh signs and then leaves to be a head coach elsewhere in 2026. So if you had somebody like Ulbrich on staff as well, you'd have somebody in the waiting, and then 4 and 4 years wouldn't be the same explosion of continuity that it otherwise would be. Because obviously once they had to go to Nick Sorensen this past year, the 49ers were running out of options. It was a guy they didn't deem worthy of the job the year prior when they hired Steve Wilkes because he didn't have enough experience. They said, okay, we hope he got enough experience now. Apparently Sorensen didn't have enough experience. It didn't work. So the 49ers really want to get this right after their defense slid to number 27 last year. So this is your 49ers update. Brian Griese turns down the Jets. I guess it's a good time to talk about Brock Purdy. This is the Brock Purdy contract projection that I wrote that has a lot of people very fired up and very up in arms. I mean, it's moving the needle, and that was the point. The point was to discuss contract logistics, not to say exactly what Brock Purdy's contract will be, but since he has scored so well and since he is one of the better quarterbacks in the league, I wanted to talk about the quarterback market, and I wanted to show everybody what a deal worth $61 million annually could look like in terms of salary cap structure. Because the APY, at the end of the day, maybe he signs for 55, maybe he signs for 58. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe they franchise tag him, but I don't see that as a plus he's still has another year left on his contract. So I don't see that as something that could actually come to fruition, because Brock Purdy would probably hold out before entering this fourth year playing on a $5 million contract. But my main point is that there are ways for the 49ers to fit large money deals into their salary cap structure. And I wanted to illustrate that. And I wanted to educate people on how the 49ers operate their finances, on what Brock Purdy might be looking for, because there's just a whole lot of ignorance out there about the whole process. It's a whole bunch of people shouting numbers, shouting 55 million, 60 million. Other people are going down to 30 million, and it's all stupid. So I'm trying to make people smarter regarding the Brock Purdy situation. And for that, you can go check out the San Francisco Standard. Mike is putting the link into the description as I speak right now. So I think my plane is going to be boarding here in a minute or two, and I'm not that close to my gate, so I better start running out there. If there's a good question, I will look at it, but I don't think there are many questions, and we've been on here for 13 minutes. I got to fly somewhere, guys. It's my last day in San Francisco. This is the last 49ers update from the state of California for a little bit. So hope you appreciated all the coverage this year. I certainly had fun giving the coverage this year. And as you can see, all the way up to the deadline, I might miss my flight for you guys. So 49ers updates have been coming in strong all season long. Hit that subscribe button if you appreciate them, or hit the like button, do all that good stuff. And maybe I'll hit you up from the next airport with more news. So we'll talk to you soon. Take care.